I'm here to tell every single survivor in these impacted areas that we will be there with you as long as it takes.
Welcome back to America Decide. That was President Biden's message today to those impacted by Hurricane Helene. We have just learned he will visit storm-ravaged areas of North Carolina on Wednesday. Senior advisor to the president, Tom Perez, joins us now. Tom, it's always good to see you. How would you assess the recovery and rebuilding efforts and the rescue efforts so far? And from your vantage point and the White House's vantage point, was the administration as prepared as it needed to be?
Well, it's been an all-hands-on-deck enterprise. The president has already issued and approved major disaster declarations in North Carolina and South Carolina. In Florida, we received a request today from Georgia. We'll process that promptly. I just finished participating in a video call with Governor Cooper, with FEMA Administrator Criswell, who's on the ground in North Carolina. We continue to surge assets there. The devastation, as Governor Cooper described, is unspeakable. Interstate 40, big parts of it are just knocked out. And we have really an all-hands-on-deck approach. We've got Department of Defense involved. We've got the Army Corps of Engineers. We've got FEMA, obviously. We've got National Guard people from literally 34 states who are coming in. We've got tens of thousands of line people who are restoring power. And we're continuing to address the challenges, in particular in western North Carolina that we were talking about. And a big challenge there, Major, is that because of the devastation in the roads, we have to airlift the critical supplies there. So water has arrived today. More supplies will be arriving. And we're again having to use airlifts to accommodate that because of the degree of the devastation.
Tom, is this a situation that will require daily briefings and possibly 2 or 3 day briefings so people in the affected regions can have a steady and reliable vein of communication to let them know either what has happened, what is happening, and what is en route?
Well, that's what we've been doing at the White House. Every day we are outlining exactly what we're doing in the federal family here to assist. And again, working very closely with all the governors. The president has spoken with Governor Kemp, Governor McMaster. We just completed this call with Governor Cooper. And you know, we'll continue to communicate with folks. And here's what we're learning in North Carolina, especially in the western part, the counties in western North Carolina. There are still a number of people who are unaccounted for. We have almost 100 search and rescue teams that are out there. We are finding people. They're doing social welfare checks, knocking on doors. It is easier said than done because of the devastation. I heard reports of 18-wheeler trucks that were floating down rivers that are cresting at record levels. And so it's an undeniably significant challenge, but we're up to the challenge, and it's a really remarkable all-hands-on-deck enterprise. And yes, we will communicate every day with people because there are still loved ones who are uncertain about family members because it's so hard to get to so many of these areas, especially in the Asheville region and the surrounding counties.
Tom, Ed O'Keefe, my colleague, communicated something to our audience earlier in the show about a gasp that went up in the briefing room today when Liz Sherwood Randall, the president's Homeland Security advisor, mentioned a number in relationship to what you just described, those unaccounted for, 600. And he also mentioned that there was a very high number of unaccounted for after the Maui Lahaina fires, but that number in the end turned out to be smaller. That's the effort being waged that you just described.
Yeah.
Search and rescue to try to find where these people are and learn their status.
That's absolutely what we're doing now. And we are finding people. We're finding people on a daily basis. Now, will we find everyone? Frankly, only God knows that. We're searching hither and yon. We're moving heaven and earth to make sure we contact and identify every single person who is missing. And toward that end, we have surged assets that enable us to communicate better. We've brought in 40 electronic devices that enable better communication, because that's the problem. You can't use your cell phone right now in most parts of that area. And so we've got to increase that capacity to communicate, and we've done exactly that. And we're going to continue to do that so that we can give relief to families and make sure that we know where every single person is.
2 million without power is the current estimate, at least it was the estimate this morning, Tom. What's being done there?
Well, again, we have tens of thousands of line people. And again, this is one of those examples. Mother Nature has delivered a blow at its worst. But the generosity of colleagues across the country is remarkable. We've had people driving in from as far away as California, National Guards people who've come in from 34 states and the District of Columbia. And because of all of the line people that are coming in, we're able to repair and restore electricity at a steady clip. But again, we're climbing a steep mountain. There are many, many people who are out of power, not only in North Carolina, but still in Georgia. I was on the phone today with mayors down in Georgia, and we're not out of the woods there yet. We still have to make sure we restore power there. And again, Governor Cooper and Administrator Criswell and the president had a really productive meeting today. And the reason she's in North Carolina is because she's going to be there for a few days, because we really are surging as many assets as possible there. The Asheville Airport is taking in a number of cargo planes that will enable us to bring in water, food, other supplies for people, and then we will move from there.
A multifaceted effort indeed. Tom Perez,
Sure is.
thank you very much.